Hi, friends. Today I'm going to tell you the story of Claire, who became the Clockmaker's Apprentice. Now, in the quiet town of Elderick, tucked beneath rolling green hills and cobblestone streets, there stood a little shop. It was small, unremarkable, and so old that the ivy had claimed its bricks. The golden letters above the door had long since faded, but if you squinted just hard enough, you could still read the words W. Torn and Son, Master Clockmakers. Inside, the air always smelled faintly of brass, dust, and candle wax. The shelves sagged under the weights of clocks of every kind tall grandfather clocks, delicate pocket watches, and cuckoo clocks that sang in unison at every hour. Some told the right time, others didn't, and a few even ticked backwards when no one was watching. The shop belonged to Mr. Thorne, a wiry man with spectacles perched on the tip of his nose. He rarely smiled, but when he did, it felt like sunlight breaking through the clouds. For years, Mr. Thorne had worked alone, until one brisk autumn morning a girl appeared at his door. Her name was Claire, and she was 14 years old. Claire wasn't like the other children of Elderick. While they ran about chasing geese or splashing in the river, Claire was always tinkering, unscrewing the back of radios and mending her mother's sewing machine, or sitting by candlelight sketching impossible machines in the margin of her school books. She had heard whispers of the strange old clockmaker, who could fix more than time itself, though no one could quite explain what that meant. With a stubborn sort of courage, she knocked on his door and asked for work. At first, Mr. Torrance scoffed. An apprentice? You're too young, too impatient, too distracted. But Clara, stubborn as she was, didn't budge. Let me prove myself. Give me one clock, and if I break it, I will never bother you again. Something in her eyes reminded him of himself long ago. So, with a reluctant sigh, he handed her a broken pocket watch. Clara spent a week working on that watch. She pinched her fingers on the tiny gears, dropped screws on the floorboard, and nearly gave up half a dozen times. But she refused to quit. Finally, late one night, the watch began to tick once more. She marched into the shop the next morning, holding it high like a trophy. Mr. Thorne inspected it carefully. He gave the faintest of nods, and then said, "Fine, you may stay." From that day on, Claire became his apprentice. She swept the floors, polished the brass, and learned the delicate dance of gears and springs. Yet she also noticed things that no ordinary workshop should have. Some of the clocks chimed 13 times instead of 12. Sometimes a customer left, and afterwards Claire swore the shop itself had aged a year older. And once, just once, she caught Mr. Thorne repairing a clock with no hands at all. And yet, when it struck midnight, the man who bought it burst into tears of relief. One chilly autumn day, as the wind howled outside, Claire gathered her courage and asked, "Mr. Thorne, your clocks, they don't just tell time, do they?" The old man didn't answer at first. He merely polished his spectacles and looked at her with weary eyes. "You're clever, Claire. Too clever. But cleverness without wisdom can be dangerous." And then, as if some invisible dam had broken, he sighed. "These clocks don't just keep time, they mend it." He explained that every clock in his workshop was tied to a person's life. A pocket watch might carry someone's happiest memories. A cuckoo clock might hide their deep darkest regrets locked inside, while a grandfather clock might hold together the very long years of a marriage. Those clocks, when they faltered, so did the people whose lives they belonged to. "That's why I do what I do," Mr. Thorne said gravely. "Not just to mend gears and springs, but to mend lives." Clara's eyes went wide with wonder. "So you can fix anything?" But the clockmaker shook his head. No, child. I can only help people face the time they've already been given. I cannot create more of it. Weeks turned into months. Claire learned quietly and quickly, faster than Mr. Thorne had expected. But one day, temptation found her. A customer brought in a small silver clock, cracked down the middle. Claire overheard the man whisper that it belonged to his sister, who had died years ago. The clock was the last thing that carried her voice, her laugh, trapped in the chiming bells. That night, after Mr. Thorne had gone upstairs, Claire stayed behind. She wound the clock and listened. For a moment she swore she could hear the woman's laughter echo through the shop. It was beautiful, haunting. A thought stuck with Claire. Her own father had died when she was quite young. His old pocket watch had been buried with him. What if she could build a clock of her own, one that could bring his voice back, or even him? The ideal consumed her. Night after night she secretly worked on a clock unlike any author, a clock that could not just mend time, but reverse it. Finally, one stormy night, Claire's creation was complete. A clock with 12 golden hands, each pointing to a different direction. With trembling fingers, she wound it. The hands spun backwards. The shop flickered with candlelight. And suddenly she saw him, her father, standing before her, smiling just as she had remembered. "Claire," he said softly. Her heart leaped, but then froze. Something was wrong. His smile did not reach his eyes. His voice wavered like a broken record. The figure of her father twisted and distorted, like a puppet being pulled on tangled strings. The shop shook violently. The other clocks began to rattle and crack. Mr. Thorne burst in. "What have you done, child?" Claire, horrified, dropped the clock. It shattered. The illusion of her father's resolved into smoke. She collapsed, sobbing. "I just wanted him back. I just wanted more time." Mr. Thorne knelt beside her, his voice softer now. "Claire, listen to me. Time is not a chain that we can pull backwards. It is a river, always flowing forward. To live is to move with it, not against it." He held her trembling hands. "The people that we lose are never truly gone. They live in the moments we remember, in the choices we make, in the love we carry forward. You do not need to rebuild the past. You need to honor it by living your present." Claire wept, but she understood. She swept up the broken gears and vowed never again to tamper with things that had already gone. Instead, she poured her heart into helping others mend their time. Years later, when Mr. Thorne grew too frail to wind the clocks himself, Claire carried on his work. The gold letters above the shop were repainted. Claire Alder, Master Clockmaker. And though she never again tried to turn back time, she found that every tick of every clock carried her father's memory forward, not as a ghost of the past, but as a guide for the future. Have you ever found yourself longing for things, places, and people that are already gone? This story shows us that time cannot be reversed. Trying to change the past only breaks the present. It traps us in moments that are no longer there. The best way to honor the time that was spent and the things that are gone is by how we choose to live now. Thank you for staying to the end of the story. Your support means the world to us. Do let us know where you're listening from and consider subscribing so that you don't miss the next great adventure or wonderful tale. Also, let us know in the comments if there's anything in your life that would have compelled you to want to turn back the hands of time if it were possible, and other themes, topics, and life lessons that we ought to explore in future stories. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye, friends.